I think the confidential, like, I guess urban redevelopment plan, like that could be like a futuristic, like we're making this again, like we're improving. That could hint at that in a weird way. And I think just like that sort of 3D, we're going in the game, like intro for it kind of gave me those vibes that they want to
Yeah.
do some sort of like revamp. It's like this is a historic place and now we're going forward.
Yeah.
Do you think that's like a potential for this to kind of
Yeah.
play with what like the legends means?
I think you're
We'll see.
absolutely right. I wasn't clocking that when I was watching it because I wasn't expecting a Legends Kalos
Or
game,
yeah.
but
Yeah.
No.
I think you're absolutely right. I think the Legends series is going to be defined not specifically by going into the past, but just by time travel in general, and I think that's exactly right.
Well, I was noticing here as we're rewatching the little teaser trailer, the Z has sort of a futuristic grid on it, while the A almost looks organic, like it's leaves or the woods. So, um, I don't know what that could possibly mean, but we'll find out in 2025,
Yeah,
apparently.
well,
I
the Z
get
looking like that is it's like a Zygarde pattern, right? Because Zygarde is this cellular Pokemon, like that's the whole thing around Zygarde, and so it looks kind of like that. But you're right that it has sort of a futuristic tone to it.
yeah. I
Yeah.
also I wanna shout out the logo reveal because it's almost ridiculous because it's Pokemon and then, like, 2 beats, then Legends, you're like, "Oh, okay." And
Yep.
then
Yep.
another 2 beats, Z, oh, alright, and then a hyphen? Probably the best hyphen reveal I've ever seen. So that's well, I
It's
guess
like it's like how I imagine they develop game titles at Square Enix. They just keep like adding little bits onto the end over and over again.
yeah, it's actually in the break room at Square Enix, they just have refrigerator poetry magnets, and that's how they name the Kingdom Heart games. But all right, my next question. I mean, we've obviously jumped right into this because this is probably the
This
biggest
is the big
news
news,
out
yeah.
of
Mhm.
the Pokemon Presents. But how are we feel? Do we think this is going to be a Switch title, or do we think this is going to be something coming to the next generation Nintendo console, which apparently is rumored to be not coming out until 2025, just like Pokemon Legends ZA or Z-A or Z minus A, which is a negative letter. Joshua, what do you think? Do you think we're gonna be seeing this? We're gonna be playing this on our next Nintendo console?
Well, I don't know. This feels like maybe a double dip where it might because it's coming at the end of the Switch life console. So maybe we'll get it on both. That's the thing they do, right?
Yeah, yeah, they did
Yeah.
it with Breath of the Wild. They did it with the Zelda game before that. I'm sorry, I'm slightly ill, so I'm having a hard time remembering things. But
We were just watching it back, and it did have the Nintendo Switch logo in the top right corner.
Yes.
I mean, that could mean anything. For years, they
true.
did the whole "Oh, it's the Nintendo 3DS family of systems" business. But I think there's no way it doesn't release on the current Nintendo Switch. But I think Joshua's idea that it might be a double dip is not a bad one.
Yeah.
I did want to go back to the Mega Evolution symbol.
Yes.
Mhm.
I mean, I don't know if y'all agree with me, but I feel like popular consensus out there in the Pokemon community is that Mega Evolution is probably the high point of Pokemon mechanics, and they've been chasing it ever since, with Dynamax, Gigantamax, and
Yep.
this terrestrialize, whatever. And honestly, they haven't really hit the same way as Mega Evolution. So the fact that they're returning to that, that's probably the most exciting thing to me is the return of Mega Evolution, more Pokemon getting Mega Evolutions, maybe even different twists on pre-existing Megas. I don't know, but that is super exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I completely agree. Like it's as you said, a high point in those mechanics for special evolutions or special battle mechanics, and to have those come back. And I didn't even think about it like, oh yeah, we'll probably get new mega forms. Like there's so many Pokemon now. I mean, it always feels like there's so many Pokemon, but
Yeah, and
especially
think
since
about
that's
it.
been developed. So
Yeah, Pikachu never got a Mega, or I guess
mhm.
Raichu. Psyduck didn't get one. That's an oversight. None of a lot of the marquee Pokemon did not get a Mega. So I feel like this is the time to go back and correct that mistake.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Go
I
back and
I
write
fully
that.
agree with all of that. I wanted to talk about it's coming out in 2025.
Yeah.
Like that's kind of a big thing in a couple different ways. It means Pokemon is I mean, unless they're going to pull something else out of their back pocket later in the year, which I don't think they are because they would have shown it here. like we don't have a big Pokemon release this year. I think this is
No.
our first year in a while where we haven't had a
Yep.
big Pokemon release, which seems like it's good because the big, we don't know what's going on internally at Game Freak, but one of the big speculations around what like the quality level of Scarlet and Violet and some of the other things they've done lately has been that they're not taking enough time to develop these games. So it's awesome that they're taking their time, presumably, and not releasing this till 2025. At the same time, what the heck is coming out on the Switch this holiday if the Switch successor indeed has been delayed to 2025? Like, what's their holiday
Ooh,
game?
that's a good question. Metroid Prime 4.
I mean,
Not too early to make jokes.
it shouldn't be on Pokemon to be the holiday game, to be clear. Like
Yeah.
I fully endorse this decision. I just think it's interesting.
Yeah, it
Uh,
is interesting. I did not expect them to. I kind of maybe just expected that this was in development or coming soon, but for them to say like a release window of 2025 is very interesting because
Yeah.
this is maybe the first Nintendo game that we know is coming in 2025. And so there is a very good possibility that
You're
this
right.
could
Mhm.
be, the double dip launch game with whatever the next title is. But yeah, like Joshua, what are we thinking for the holiday this year? There's no Pokemon. There's nothing. Kids are gonna have the worst Christmas.
that's okay. It's give me time to replay X and Y. I guess I have to brush up on my my Gen 6 before this game.
All right,
Um,
fair enough. I actually just found my copy again, so maybe I'll go back through it and finish it. But Miranda, what are you thinking? What is the Pokemon future for this year? Is it like we know nothing.
Well, we have Pokemon Sleep updates, so that's
Well,
exciting.
let's
Heck
get
yeah, Pokemon
please speak.
Sleep.
I know.
Both of you got excited about sleep, and
We
then
both love
Joshua
Pokemon
had a
Sleep.
great question that I want all of you to answer. Which of the legendaries would you most like to cover? Reb.
Oh, which of the legendaries? Like in like ever that have ever existed?
Sure.
yeah, sure. Well, in the video, we saw that they're
Right.
bringing Entei, Raikou, and
Suicune. Yeah.
Suicune. But if not those three, which one would you cuddle?
Uh, I mean, of those three, probably Entei, because Suicune seems like it would be cold and wet, and Raikou seems a little sharp. But I think Mew would be nice to cuddle with, actually. Small, soft, cute. Yeah.
Soft. It looks slimy.
What?
Mew, it's a cat.
You
I've never
slimy.
thought
What?
Mew looked slimy.
Mewtwo is like a genetic.
That's
like,
a different Pokemon, Joshua.
But they're from one and the same. You think he's a cat? You think he has fur? No, that's like skin.
They
He's like one of those
confuse
naked.
DNA.
He's like
hairless
like a
cats.
Sphinx cat. Yeah.
Those are
These
nice
guys a
too.
Sphinx cat.
What's wrong with a hairless cat?
Yeah, you get to give them like little lotion massages and stuff. Like I think like you have to like bathe them specially, and they have to have little hoods and coats. Maybe
This
Mew
is
also
Pokemon
just needs
hate.
a coat.
Okay,
Well-
I am not giving Mew a lotion bath. Okay. Reb, I actually have to check in with you while we were watching. Pretty much, every 5 seconds
Oh my
you were
God.
screaming, "Let's go Johto!" You were like, "Oh, is that Johto music? That's a Johto Pokemon."
Yeah.
And it didn't
I-
happen. Why did you think that was coming, and how do you feel that it was not a part of this presents?
So I am tentatively excited for this Legends game, despite the fact that we have not seen any gameplay. I will point
No.
out zero gameplay, zero anything. That said, yeah, this was massive Johto bait. Like at every second, they're putting the 3 legendary dogs from Johto and Pokemon Sleep. They were playing music from Generation 2, Gold, Silver, Crystal, in like the little interstitials between announcements. They were showing the unknown repeatedly, which by the way, I need someone to tell me what those unknown at the end said, because I think my unknown reading abilities have gotten rusty. It was like soy something. I can't read unknown. Anyway, like they were they showed Silver in Pokemon, whatever the trainer game is. I've just lost it. Masters.
Masters,
Masters,
Yeah.
yeah.
Silver was in that. There was just JoJo stuff all over this presentation, and one of the big rumors we've heard, apart from Pokemon Black and White remakes, is a Pokemon, a Let's Go Johto, basically, like Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, but with, I don't know, like Pichu and Togepi or something.
Yeah.
I have no idea, and that's not what we got, and that's fine. They can make whatever they want, but it was really weird to tease this thing that people have been so excited about seemingly, and then just not do it.
Also, like at the end of Pokemon Let's Go, there is a little reference to like your heart and soul and stuff. And so it's like a little like,
Yeah.
hey, the next one. I'm like, yeah, that sounds great. I want to go back there. And to Rep's point too, like even looking at Pokemon Sleep, which I know we keep going back to, and I was like, yeah, I wish I was still playing Pokemon Sleep right now, but you know, I'm not.
I wish I was
Um,
sleeping.
yeah, we're here instead. We could be playing a game in our sleep. But these are our first legendaries, and for it to be like Johto legendary
Mhm.
specifically is so pointed that it's just a little weird. Like
Yeah.
you
I
would
guess
think that they
of
would go
all
back
the
to Gen 1 or
legendaries,
something.
those are the ones that are like, I guess, best suited to sleeping, right? Like the legendary
Yeah.
birds wouldn't make. I mean, you could
Yeah,
do
no.
birds.
I mean,
Birds
you
roost.
sleep
They
with
don't
rocks.
sleep.
That's
Literally,
true.
like rock Pokemon. So it's like
Yeah.
like Golem just like is in a ball next to me. I'm like, yeah, good job. You're
Yeah.
a
But
very
you're right.
happy
You're right.
Pokemon. So
It was very pointed.
yeah. So it's there's a lot of evidence building up here that just doesn't quite make sense, and is honestly, at least on my side, just a little bit disappointing because I really loved Let's Go. I thought it was just such a nice way to revisit a place that you've already been, a nice introduction to people who don't want to play the originals, and it feels like a miss, especially if we're kind of getting to the end of Switch. And if the next version of whatever this looks like changes things up radically, it's like, I don't want to miss out on these mechanics that were really fun specifically on this device.
They are literally always doing this, though. Like,
Yeah.
they are always teasing stuff and making us think that something's coming, and then, oh, psych, you were silly for thinking that was happening. Like, we talked about when everyone thought we were getting Pokemon Z. We talked about when everyone thought we were getting Pokemon Stars. We've talked about that on the show before.
Stars.
Remember, like, at the end of Pokemon Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, when you got to like this one area and they're like, oh, battle tower under construction coming soon. And we were all like, oh my God, we're getting some sort of either Emerald expansion or like, I don't know, Gamma Emerald. I don't even know what that would be. But we always think there's something, and then it's not that thing at all. And instead, they're like, "Oh, we were teasing Scarlet and Violet the whole time. Did you see the oranges and the grapes on the counter in the previous game? You should have known." No.
Yeah.
I
a
have
misdirect.
a theory on the title Pokemon ZA.
Let's hear it.
I was looking over social media, and a lot of people have pointed out that in X and Y, one of the main characters is named AZ. Remember him? He was like the mysterious, like
Oh.
homeless man, and then it turned out he was the
Yeah.
former king of the Kalos region.
Yeah.
So perhaps if this is the future, maybe the future king is ZA, his descendant or something like that. Who knows? But that does seem it can't be a coincidence that AZ was a major character and the game is called ZA, right? It has to
Yeah.
mean something.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember that, and I completely forgot that guy's name was Az. I forgot. I memory hold that. Yeah. No, you're
Well,
right.
Parents had interesting tastes.
Yeah.
all right. Well,
Oh, I found what the unknown spells
Oh.
on Twitter. And
Ooh.
apparently I'm not bad at reading unknown. It really does seem to be just gibberish. It's
Okay.
like it's SOEYUE. So you?
new
It's
legendary.
not anything.
Nope. It's new
Oh, that's a
Pokemon.
bit of a bummer.
Yeah. Well, it might be something. It might spell, yeah, it might be like a new Pokemon or a new something.
Or nothing
Remember-
at all. It could
Well, I
be
mean,
anything.
remember like the Sinnoh region in Diamond and Pearl was like renamed in Legends Arceus. Maybe this
Mhm.
I don't know, but what it doesn't compute at this time.
Well, we only have a year at least to wait to find out what all of this means. I do like how they've just basically lied through this whole thing, tricked everybody into thinking more than there really was. And I'm sure that when trailer breakdowns, I'm sure we'll do a trailer breakdown, and then more information will emerge on the Legends ZA. I do
Saw.
like that they have my Swordy Boys Pokemon, whose name, please forgive me, I always forget. It's like my favorite Gen 6 Pokemon, but
You can't remember the name of your favorite Gen 6 Pokemon?
I'm quite ill right now. The fact that I can remember where I am is pretty amazing. Hone
Uh,
Edge,
it,
thank you. Golly, there
Hone
he
it.
is.
Well, that one's
That's not Hone Edge. That's the evolved. Thank
Aegis
you.
slash, however you want to say.
Yeah. All right. Well, uh, Joshua, you are an expert on basically all card games. Like it's kind of impressive and amazing your depth of knowledge. And
I'm
I
glad
want to ask.
someone finds it impressive.
Yeah, I at last year in LA at the office, you and Teddy, who works does contract work for us, you guys sat there and talked about like I think Yu-Gi-Oh at a level that I've never heard anybody speak kind of on anything, and it was just like fascinating. And at one point, you looked at me and you're like, "I can't believe you're still standing here." It's like watching two, it's like watching Michael Jordan and LeBron trade tips. But I want to get your take on this new trading card game that Pokemon TCG Pocket. This is coming to the
Mm.
phone. You crack packs like twice a day. Are you excited for this, or does you think this takes anything away from the actual card game?
It's interesting because, well, on one hand, it does actually look cool. It seems like it's aimed at people who enjoy collecting and people who appreciate the art of Pokemon. And it does look so cool that I guess for some cards, you can go into the card frame and
Yeah,
explore the world that the art like, and see what's outside the border. That sounds like a really cool experience. I can't wait to do that. Awesome. That said, the Pokemon trading card game community has been pretty unpleased with the current client that we use to play the card game online, Pokemon Live. And so the fact that they're making another game that you can play the game on, but it looks like a condensed, like
yeah.
simpler version. But I think a lot of people are going to say this Pocket app, whatever, it looks cool, fine, but can you give us a better app to play the actual game on? Because it's a little rough. It's really rough.
Is it the same app that they've been like have using for all the like years and years, or did they? Is there something newer? Because I remember when my both my kids were really into it, like downloading that app. Is it the like years ago? Is it the same one?
They finally they sunset Pokemon trading card game online and replace it with Pokemon Live. But it's just not the same. It feels like actually several steps backwards and is missing tons of features that the old one that was like 20 years old had. So yeah, we're in turmoil right now. Okay, so yeah, seeing this is really cool, and I think they know that most people who buy Pokemon cards actually are not playing the game; they're collecting. So I think
Right.
they're leaning into that. It said that this was co-produced by or made by DNA, who does
Yep.
Pokemon Masters EX. And all I hear when I hear that is that this is going to have a lot of like gotcha mechanics or like
Mm,
microtransactions, and it's going to really incentivize people to want to open more than 2 packs a day. And I'm assuming that's going to cost real world money.
Yeah.
yeah.
I
Go ahead.
Do you think there's so it looked like there was some sort of quick battle feature. Do you not do you think there's any possibility this replaces the current like live scenario?
No, I don't think so. I think just I imagine just like when you have an app with cards on it that people will want to play a little bit. So there's giving people a way to
Mm.
do that on that app, but in no way does that replace the actual like full-fledged app where you can play the game, normally and at a competitive level. I think that would be a terrible idea to just get rid of the actual client in favor of a quick mode.
I
It does
see.
also seem like an entry point for people who are really into the collecting, and it's like, "Hey, you wanna play with these cards that you have collected?" To just, like, try it out, and then, like, kinda get people sucked into that part of it, and that seems like a lot more approachable, especially since, like, people have known how to play Pokemon, the card game, for so long at this point, and this seems like a nice way to, yeah, ease into it.
Yeah.
I think it is nice that they give you 2 packs per day. Like, that feels sort of generous.
My my hope is that there's because I haven't played the TCG in a really long time or collected or anything, but I remember years ago when I could buy a pack like in real life, and then it would always have the code in it, and I would put that into the online thing, and I would be able to open a pack online as well. And so I would hope for that kind of tie in this, so that people who are actively already engaged in the TCG are getting something for it as opposed to just sort of restarting their collections. Or maybe there's a way to input cards that you actually physically own. I don't know. But like
I'm gonna
having
say
to
that they
start from
don't do
scratch
that.
kind of seems like it sucks. Yeah. I mean, Probably not.
This
But
looks to me like a license to print. I think that like the 2 packs seems generous, but I think you're gonna get a lot of commons, and they're I think DNA knows exactly what they're doing. They're gonna make it you get just a little taste. Well, I might as well spend
yeah.
$8 to buy the 400 Poke Points, so I can buy an odd number of packs or something and still have some left over. But I mean, just the way that you open them, like a little slice across
Yeah.
the top. I mean, that has. I could just do that all day. It just looks so satisfying. It's like digital bubble wrap almost.
DNA also did Fire Emblem Heroes. They did
Yep.
Animal Crossing Pocket Camp. And
Yep.
I know Nintendo has been all like, "Oh, our mobile games didn't do very well or whatever," but both of those games got people to spend quite a bit of money, so, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. The sorry, the one that you were just like I
Animal
said, I'm
Crossing
actually
Pocket
sick.
Camp, Fire Emblem Heroes.
The Fire Emblem Heroes, thank you. I wanted to say Dragon Warrior, but that's an NES game. Fire Emblem. I actually kind of got into that, and it was pretty thrilling. And I
Mhm.
noticed
It's
here
fun.
on the card game that they do have the sort of the diamond level rarity, and like I remember getting like a rare hero in Fire Emblem and being all excited, even though I ended up just completely falling off that game, not playing it all. But yeah, I think this might be successful with a more like Joshua, like you're saying, like a collector audience, but probably not for the hardcore, card game community out there. But all right, that was the Pokemon TCG Pocket. There's party hats coming to Pokemon Go for Pokemon Day, so that's
Yeah, it wouldn't be a
exciting.
Pokemon Day unless we got some party hat Pokemon in Go.
Yeah. And those are out right now. And then there's Pikachu with Caps Big Hat Day for
Big Hat
people.
Day.
Yeah. So if you want
Yeah.
Caps hat, you can start that with the Pokemon Go collab event. Terror Raid battle events begin tomorrow. What have I missed? Masters. Oh, this was a fun one. Masters EX celebrates 4.5 years. Like, all right, that's just kind of how like we're celebrating 700 shows. So, all right,
This is our 700th show?
this is our 700th
Yeah,
episode of
sure.
Nintendo Voice
Yay,
Chat.
Pokemon!
Yeah, I know it kind of fell. It fell on a cool day that we get to do a live show, even though everyone's really tired and I'm sick. But all right, we've kind of spoken on this during the course of our conversation, but I want to know: were your expectations met, or were they not? And kind of how do you feel overall about this, Reb? I'd like to start with.
Um, so I've said a lot of things about my feelings about this. I think Legend ZA is a really interesting surprise. I like that it wasn't what I expected. I'm I'm only bummed out that we didn't get Johto because it was teased the whole show. I didn't actually walk in here expecting Let's Go Johto, so it's okay. I'm kind of wondering where the black and white remakes are, or if we're ever going to get those. I mean, there were never any promises we were going to. It was just a community thing, but like,
Yeah.
it would be great if we did. I think my actual genuine. So when we were talking through how the show was going to go, everybody was asking me, okay, what do you think we're going to see at Pokemon Presents? And what I said was, we're probably going to open with some sort of like middle of the road kind of like spin-off game, like a mystery dungeon or a Pokemon Snap size and style of game. We're
Mm,
going to get a bunch of mobile game updates, and then we're going to have the big, okay, here's what their next big Pokemon game is. And I was almost right, except we didn't have that first thing. We didn't have some sort of like Pokken tournament, like spin-off
yeah.
kind of thing in the opening. And as a result, the coming year actually feels kind of empty of Pokemon. Like we don't have a big spin-off. We don't have a big Pokemon game coming till next year. We have all these mobile updates. And that's fine. Like most big series don't just churn things out every single year at the cadence that the Pokemon company tends to. But given their history, it's a little weird that this is a slower year for Pokemon. And so I don't know that I'm disappointed per se, but it's interesting. It's notable. I hope this means they're hunkering down and focusing on getting their crap together, cuz Scarlet and Violet were kind of disappointing.
Mhm. All right, fair enough. Joshua, how are you feeling? Were your expectations met?
I thought I was pleasantly surprised. I didn't expect a new game like a new Legends game of all things. So I am excited to find out more about that. I thought Legends Arceus was a really good concept, but much like Scarlet and Violet, I thought it was lacking in execution in a lot of ways. So I hope that
Yeah.
they've taken some lessons
Mhm.
there and are improving. I'm actually fine with them taking a little bit of a break this year. Although there's still tons of other Pokemon stuff coming out. Not big releases, but the Pokemon machine goes on. But yeah, the quality of the past couple of major releases has not been there. So I hope they're taking this time to make sure the next releases do get there and exceed expectations in terms of quality. I was kind of hoping a little bit for remakes of Black and White because honestly I think that's the last great Pokemon game, like that generation, Gen 5. It's so good, and I was interested to see what they might be doing with the remake, but also felt a little too soon for that. So I didn't have big expectations to see that again. And yeah, I was not expecting a new Pokemon trading card game app. And like I said before, I do think it's cool, and I'm interested to explore it and go into the card art and stuff like that. But I feel like I have to wonder, like, is that coming at the expense of the actual app where you can play the full game, which is completely just like under developed and is missing tons of features and feels really clunky to play, and it just feels like, well, cool for collecting, but can we improve the playing experience?
Yeah. If Kat Bailey were here, she would remind us that Pokemon is turning into more of a lifestyle brand than a video game brand, and I think she's right.
Oh, I don't think it's turning. I
It
think
is.
it's
It
it
already is.
is
Yeah.
100%. That,
Yeah.
yeah.
Correct.
But all right, Miranda, how are you feeling? Were your expectations met? Do you
I'm
think
pretty
this is gonna?
sleepy, and we're getting legendaries in Pokemon Sleep, so I'm actually really happy about that. I know I keep
Okay.
coming back to this, but that was my main expectation, was I wanted some cool little thing for Pokemon Sleep. And I knew we were gonna get mobile updates that like happens every year. And so it's cool to see them continuing to support that because it is such a weird like game, like as Reb just said, like, and that has Cat has alluded to. Pokemon is sort of like a lifestyle company. It kind of always has been, honestly. Like I think for a very long time they've tried to like, hey, do you want this plate? And I'm like, yeah, I do.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think I came in with really low expectations because as other folks have mentioned, it does feel like a little bit of a down year, and especially kind of gauging where the Nintendo Switch is in its life cycle. I think it's a good time for them to sort of take a beat. I could see us getting, well, I guess I was surprised that we're getting Pokemon Legends next as the next spinoff, but um I could see that being maybe an early-ish next year release as sort of like a, oh, this is our capstone on the Nintendo Switch.
Yeah.
Like it's our
Yeah.
final major Pokemon release on the Nintendo Switch as it is. And then us moving on to the next thing. And in a way, too, I think also with us getting a brand new Pokemon anime series with new leads, like Ash has had
Yeah.
his journey. Ash and Pikachu are off on the sunset doing their own thing. This does really feel like a weird like reset for Pokemon.
Mm.
Yeah. A little bit.
And getting that beat to just say like, all right, we're going to continue on with what we have. This new show is a big focus for us, and we're going to work on continuing to develop, as we said, like the bigger lifestyle part. Next year is like when we go full force, maybe with different announcements or other things. And as Reb has said too, it's like really nice for them to have a bit of a break, just because. And Josh has also said this, like the quality of Scarlet and Violet wasn't really what we were looking for. I think from mainline Pokemon games, and even Pokemon Legends Arceus, like I think it was really cool, but it was an ugly game. So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think it's just time. It's just time for us to get that Pokemon reset, get everybody a little bit of a break, and then keep on going with what's to come.
Yeah. I think
I
that's fair. I think a Pokemon reset is good. Reb, what's
I
up?
don't mean to divert us, but Nintendo of America just dropped a tweet for the trailer for Pokemon Legends ZA, and their phrasing is "Watch the CD reveal trailer for Pokemon Legends ZA, a new adventure set entirely within Lumio's city."
Okay.
Interesting.
Yeah, I don't know how to unpack that further, but that's an interesting piece of information.
Well, that's more information than they gave us in the
The
trailer.
trailer,
So,
yeah.
yeah, I mean, as my feelings are, it's not a huge Pokemon enjoyer, but I do enjoy Pokemon. I have played several of the games, but only one have I ever finished, and that was Blue. But it was fine. It was probably like a 7 out of 10. What, Joshua?
No, are you referring to the Pokemon Presents being a
The
7 out of 10 or
presents, the
Blue?
presents, the
Yeah,
presents.
I think Joshua was reacting
Okay,
to the
no, the
possibility of you
Pokemon
ranking
presents.
Pokemon Blue
Yeah.
a 7 out of 10.
No, Pokemon Blue was the first one I had was Yellow. I never beat it because I got stuck in whatever in a save loop. But played it on the Wii U Virtual Console. But my biggest surprise and my biggest sort of disappointment was you still can't play the original Game Boy Pokemon or Game Boy Advance games on your Nintendo Switch. Like I kind of
Yeah.
was just expecting they were gonna say now you can play,
Put them on
you
Virtual
know,
Console, yeah.
yeah, like
Not Virtual
Yellow,
Console.
Blue, and Red
Yeah.
on Nintendo Switch
Online.
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 I
Yeah.
Yeah.
don't know why we can't do that because you have to play them either on your 3DS or your Wii U, which nobody's doing, or like break out the original one, which is
Wait,
so
aren't they on the Virtual Console?
Sorry, they're on the Virtual Console.
they're on Virtual
for
Console, but
for
they're not on
3DS,
Nintendo Switch
and
online.
yeah.
So
Oh, right,
Yeah.
right, right.
If
So
I
you-
had to guess, they're not putting Red, Blue, and Yellow on there because they have Let's Go, Pikachu, and Eevee, and they want to keep selling copies of that.
I mean, sure, but they also want to sell Nintendo Switch Online service, which costs them very little and costs you $20 a year. So I don't know. It was a fine presents. The legends at the end was definitely a surprise. I don't think anybody
No.
really fully expected that, and I think no one's expectations were fully met with this presents,
Yeah.
especially just
Mine
going off
was.
of what. Well, okay, with the exception of Miranda, which shout out, I
I
respect
had
that.
yeah. To be clear, I had the
Expectations
lowest.
in the gutter.
Just
Yeah.
Well,
just after like the pacing of everything that's been released, I was like,
Yeah.
this is gonna be a quiet year. I love Pokemon Day. I honestly do. But also I was like, this is one I could have slept in a little bit for and watched later and been happy with it.
Yeah,
Miranda's gonna Pokemon sleep well tonight.
Nice.
Yes.
Yeah.
Get those
Seth,
extra
what would
points.
what would get you to play like a new Pokemon game? Like what would they have had to show today for you to be like, yeah, I'm gonna buy that and play Pokemon
that's
again?
You
I
know
mean,
what? Hearing what you said about the game is going to take completely within Lumio City, and then yeah, the trailer did have like urban redevelopment plan, right? And it seemed like you're going to be building and designing your own like Pokemon City. That there are games like that, like City Builder. If that's what this is, and like you're not just like going around battling, but you're actually like building out the city. That actually sounds really cool, right? There's a ton of games that have done that, but Pokemon hasn't really done that, right?
Mm-hmm.
No, I
Yeah.
don't think they have. No.
that would be pretty
There was
awesome. Go ahead.
No, they
Are
haven't
you
done that.
thinking?
No, I was trying to remember like this one mechanic in Black 2 and White 2, but it wasn't that. So
I feel like this is like Sim City, but it's like Pokemon City.
Yeah,
That sounds
'cause
cool.
I'd be
Yeah.
into that.
you've basically only been able to decorate like rooms and very
Yeah.
small scope things.
Secret
but yeah, getting
bases.
that would be really neat. Yeah, secret bases.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know
Yeah,
what? Like,
secret cities. What if you could design your own like series of Pokemon gyms or something like that? You get to choose the types and stuff. I don't know. I'm really going off
Anything-
in another direction here, but it does seem like that, right? I can think of like in Assassin's Creed, right? There's like a city that you would develop
Yeah.
over time and add
Yeah.
new features and stuff. That's the first one that comes to mind. But there are a lot of games like that. If that's what this is, that would be cool.
Don't say anything you want them to do because then you guarantee they will not do it.
but it,
Seth, what would get you to play a Pokemon game again,
well,
Seth?
city building now. Like, I would definitely super want that. I've played all of the Pokemons that have come out since whenever the 3DS.
What would get you to
I
finish one?
I just never finished.
That's true.
I've started finishing games now that I have been properly diagnosed with ADHD.
How's Tears of the Kingdom going?
I haven't beaten Tears of the Kingdom because I don't want that game to end.
Exactly.
It's different than me just like seeing something shiny float by my window and going and chasing it into the woods. I don't know. You know what would make me finish is just like sitting down and saying I'm going to finish
Okay.
this Pokemon. Maybe I'll try Scarlet and Violet because I have them both. No.
I don't
There
like
are
it.
some good Pokemon in there though, and some characters are really nice.
The time I had with it, I
Listen,
enjoyed.
Palmon's fantastic. Don't
I'll tell you,
Fine.
I think one of the problems that I have with
Disappointing.
getting hooked by a game like aw,
Yeah.
My shiny
It's
Palmy,
cute.
like, come on, guys. Like,
Yeah, it's
there's
pretty
some
cute.
there's some redeemable things. It's not.
I gave it a
yeah,
7. I liked a
Yeah.
lot of parts of it.
it just had a
I
lot of
No, I
performance
gave it a
issues.
6. I gave Arceus
Yeah, you gave
7.
I
Sorry.
wouldn't.
I can't keep track anymore.
Yeah, I wouldn't point people toward it though. I'd be like,
I
is
still
this
like
the one
some
you
parts
have
of
to
it.
play? No.
It's fun. It's fine. I think for me, having been like a grown adult when Pokemon hit, and I did
Mm.
when I was in the Air Force and I was in Germany, the only thing we had on TV because we had like one station, the Armed Services Network. After I got home from work, was the Pokemon animated series, and I would just sit
That's
there
so
and watch it
funny.
because there's like
What?
nothing else on. And then I played Pokemon Yellow on my Game Boy on like deployments and stuff, but I don't have that sort of nostalgia. I think that had I been younger and it hit me, that would make a 3D Pokemon as impactful as seeing all these games that I've only known in pixel art, which I love. I love Pokemon pixel art. I
Yeah.
love the chip tunes, but seeing them brought into the 3D world doesn't
Some
quite
of those.
feel like it has that same impact for me, and therefore I don't have that same level of disappointment that it is a little janky and nasty. So you know what? I'm gonna go back and try to finish one of those two games. There it
Honestly,
is.
if you ask me, I think when Pokemon went 3D in X and Y, I think that's where the main series kind of started taking a nosedive. So really, you got out at a great time.
Oh.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know that I'd say nosedive because I do like a lot of things about some of the games since that. Like I really enjoyed Sun and Moon.
Yeah, I was about to
but
say I really
really
like Sun
like
and
Sun and
Moon.
Moon.
Like those are the last ones I think I really loved.
But I do think I agree with the sentiment that Pokemon hasn't quite been the same since then, and I think Game Freak are very much masters of the pixel art and kind of the old style like top down RPG
Oh yeah.
situation. And I don't think I think a lot of those monster designs are not as cool when you make them into 3D models. Like they were
Yeah.
not originally envisioned as smooth, shiny 3D models.
Yeah. It's
Some
like
of them.
the episode of The Simpsons where Homer goes 3D. It just looked weird.
This looks a little weird. Yeah. But some of the newer ones, because they're designing Pokemon with that intention now, are
Yeah.
we're doing
Which is
okay.
fair enough. And then
We're figuring it out.
in like X and Y, you have the little training uh mini game, I guess, and those little guys are
Mm.
pixel art, and I love that because they like bounce around and stuff. So maybe I'll just get, I have my 3DS. I found all my carts. Maybe I'll go back and I'll finish X.
Yeah.
Do that and see where that leads.
You get roller
Josh.
skates in that game.
Yeah, that's
I hope we get roller skates again.
That's okay. So let me ask real quick then. Joshua, what do you think Pokemon needs to do to get it back to where it was for you?
So the reason I said that 6 is where it all started going downhill for me, and I think 5 is the last Gen 5 is the last great Pokemon game. Oh my god, is that a Ditto? Ah, how long has that been there?
The whole time.
Uh, what was I saying? Oh, I think 5. It was the last game that felt like challenging, right? There was like a grind there. But starting with X and Y, they made the games like so easy and like too narrative driven, where it would take over the game for you, is letting these scenes play out and showing you exactly where to go. It just feels like the game lost what made it interesting. And I haven't lost a Pokemon battle since X and Y. And I'm not saying that because I'm great at Pokemon battling on the video game side. I'm definitely not. But it's just, if they've made it accessible and easy for everyone. Unfortunately, sales for the games since then have gone up. Gen 5 was, I think, it's the lowest selling generation. So they probably will never go back to games the way they used to be because they've just gotten more and more popular and more successful and sold more units. The more they've made it them 3D and accessible, aka like easier. So I do feel like if they made a more like kind of like hardcore game, or at least gave us a difficulty setting, that would be amazing. Like, can I at least get some gym leaders that cover their weakness again? That would be great.
I kind of disagree with that perspective. Like I do think
Okay.
I know there's been discussion about the way EXP share affects the game and various other things, but I do think more recent games are easier to play through the base story than say Red and Blue. Like you go back and fight that Elite Four and you're like, oh God. But I mean, that's just because the audience has expanded for Pokemon, right? And I think that's okay. What I love about Pokemon is that it does have more challenging aspects for people who want them. Apart from the fact that the raids don't really work in Scarlet and Violet, when the raids do work, they can be really challenging and fun. And some of the later game battles can be very challenging and fun. And some of the legendary battles can be too, especially if you're just playing through for the first time and you're not rolling through with like this team of level 100s that you've EV trained all the heck. And you have the competitive battle scene as well on top of that. So if you're really into the mechanics of Pokemon, like they remain complex and interesting, and you're able to take on these difficult challenges against other people through PvP. And so I like that they've combined those two aspects. They have the easier story mode for people who just want to catch their Pokemon and have a good time. But then if you want to seek out greater challenges, you can. And I think that's one of the really wonderful things they've done with the series. If I could have anything apart from games that just function on a basic level, I would like to see them go back to the sort of sense of adventure that they had in some of the older games. I felt like there were secrets behind every corner. I felt like
Yeah.
after I beat the
Yep.
game, there were new areas that were unlocked to explore and new interesting things popping up. And I think some of that is just hurt by the transition to 3D. But in Scarlet and Violet, it very much felt like I was just running through these empty grassy fields, and I would walk around a corner and be like, oh, it looks like there's something cool over here. And it was just a Pokeball. It was nothing. It was not exciting. And so I would like to return to that sense if it's possible.
So you want to feel that same sense of wonder that you felt.
Yeah,
Well, we're all
maybe that's
chasing that.
asking too much. Yeah, I think it was easier and like it was easier when you were looking at this sort of 2D pixelated world, right? Because you had this really beautiful small scale rendition of what this was, and then in my imagination it was much bigger. But now they've actually made it bigger, like
Yeah.
like in the game, it is so much bigger, and it turns out that it's probably very challenging to fulfill that fantasy
Well,
when you're
I
actually
mean,
making it.
probably maybe one of my favorite things about Breath of the Wild Tears of the Kingdom is how successfully
Yeah,
it adapted that 2D world that I loved
that's
as a
true.
little kid into a fully realized 3D world. I don't think
That's true.
Pokemon has been able to do that yet. But to their credit, we're talking about freaking Nintendo and Zelda. Like, obviously, like nobody's.
I don't know. They've got budget. Like they
I
can
mean, yeah, sure, they've got the budget, but like,
if they chose to take their time and really I believe they can do it. I believe it is possible. I just think that the money machine is cranking.
Yeah.
but Zelda was extremely successful for the
Yeah.
Nintendo company.
Yeah, I mean, Pokemon already has tried to make like their version of Zelda with Legends Arceus, right? That's essentially Pokemon by way of Breath of the Wild, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they kind of have done that, but actually, you saying that, Seth, made me think: what if they did make a Pokemon game that was as good as Zelda? What if they weren't on seemingly a very rigid release schedule where they just churn out these games and they're not as good as they could be? What if we got a truly amazing Pokemon game? And I hate to bring up Pal World, but a lot of people have really taken to that game
Yeah.
because it's done so many things and innovative and use the creatures in a way that Pokemon never has, in ways that they really want to. And I'm not just talking about shooting them with guns. And so I think Pokemon does have to take a good hard look at that and think, well, what can we do to innovate and make our games better? Because for me, at least, if they feel trapped in the past and I want a modern Pokemon masterpiece, give it to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%. Miranda, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I have been thinking about this a lot as far as like difficulty and what sort of experiences you actually get from a mainline Pokemon game. And I think I side a little bit more with Rep on the difficulty. Like, I think there are challenges, and I think it'd be nice to see more of those as an option.
Sure.
And it's weird because, like, really, what I want from Pokemon games is like more, which is weird to say, but like, I want more experiences with my Pokemon. Like, I want to actually be able to play with them again in a meaningful way. Like, Scarlet and Violet was like a really bad attempt at that with their little
Mhm.
picnic system, and it felt like such a step back from all the things they've done in different games to give you opportunities to have time with your Pokemon aside from battling. And that's, I think, something I've looked for a lot. And I think as far as like the difficulty goes, I like that it's not too grindy or too challenging in some points because I get to play with a team that I formed that may not necessarily be the best competitively, but they're
Right.
like they're my pals. Like I
Yeah.
genuinely love my Pokemon. Like they are like I
Absolutely.
catch the same Pokemon every time if I can. I'll like trade them in if I have to. Like they are my team and like I want to go on this adventure with them every time if I can with some new friends. But at the same time, like we
Cat
always
in the
get some new
frame, by the
friends.
way, if you're watching the video.
That's my my real life
That's your real
Pokemon,
life
Ari.
Pokemon. Well, I think I'm gonna split the difference. I think personally, I would love, yeah, like m- more Pokemon activities, but like Joshua, like you're saying, um, maybe expand on that whole mechanic. Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom, they did things that Zelda games had never done before. Like the building mechanic in The Legend of Zelda, Tears of the Kingdom is the most like memed and shared and most probably talked about mechanic in that whole game, and it's basically entirely new. So, is the answer Pokemon with guns? Well, Pal World maybe thinks so, but something a little bit different that keeps that core feeling of collecting, and evolving, and making friends with these, and then make the world bigger, make the world more expansive, make the world more immersive. I think that would be a bajillion-dollar property. But again, like you're saying, Joshua, that they have to have these come out every year, and that makes them a little rushed. Whereas Tears of the Kingdom, they had a video come out specifically to say, "Sorry, it's not where we want it to be yet. We're gonna take another year, and look what we got: the best game of all time." But I have some bad news. That is all the time we have left for this week's Nintendo
Great
Voice Chat.
transition.
Thank you. Before we go, I have a few favors to ask. This is also the slowest I've ever read this. If you're watching us on YouTube, please just leave us a like and a nice comment. If you're listening to us on a podcast app, please leave us a review. It helps us spread the good NVC word, and we will be forever in your debt. Reb, Joshua, Miranda, I want to thank you all, the Elite Three, for waking up so damn early. I'm going to let you all go and get some more coffee. I'm going to go back to bed because I'm sick. But remember, NVC is the only place where you can
Get the thing.
Get the thing.
get
Thing.
the thing. You got to get. I'm going to get a coffee. That's the thing.
Please take care of yourself.